So welcome back to From Pasture to Deer Production. This is going to be part 3. And today we're going to talk about everything food plots, where we want to put them, what we want to plant in them, and why we're putting them where we're putting them. We're going to go through the whole thing. We've already established adding bedding areas, diversity pockets, lines of sight improvements. We've already established all that along the property. So today we're going to do food. We already have the 2 established food plots, and we're going to leave them there. We're going to keep using those food plots, and just because they're in good spots. It keeps the deer in the middle and gives us feeding in separate corners. So we're going to add more food plots to this. Actually, and as this property develops, so you'll understand why I'm planting food plots where I'm planting them. So we're going to add a food plot right here that ends up being about 1.5 acres. We're going to add 2 triangle food plots right here, and we're going to add 1 3-acre food plot right here. It's a little bigger, 3, probably 4 acres. So it's like 1.5 acres, 2 acres, 2 acres, and like 3.5 acres. So why did I place them there? I mean, every time you make a food plot, you got to ask yourself where to put it. Why am I putting there? What's it for? Everything. Food plots are obviously for deer food. These aren't kill plots. These are destination food plots. We want the deer to be out here and feed on them in the evenings and in the mornings, but they're going to be their main food source. There's not a lot of agriculture around, so we're planting a lot of food because the deer need places to eat where they can eat all night, or they can go bed down and then come back and feed them in the morning. So we're going to feed a lot of deer with these food plots, so they have to be big in size and they have to control a lot of stuff. We also added a lot of woody browse to the property by planting all these trees and all these shrubs, which should really help take the load off of the food plots. So, I mean, on a normal year when that was planted in beans before, 6 acres of waist-high beans, and they would be gone before November 15th. I mean, there would be 30 deer out there eating them all, and they'd be gone. So we're going to spread out the deer. So that's another thing. Why we're planting these food plots, we're planting them. We want the deer to evenly spread out throughout the property and evenly utilize the whole property, which enables it to hold more deer. The more everything's spread out, the more they use the whole property, the more deer the property can hold. So we've also decided what we're going to plant. I've been thinking about this for a while, and we're going to plant every food plot the same, and we're going to split it into 2. We're going to split it, and there's not a lot of things that grow real great in our soil type and sandy, and then in the fall it gets dry and things just don't grow all that well and germinate that well, except for a few things. So we can't plant Nebraska or turnip or those types of crops, anything really green. They just don't do very well. So they end up just burning up in the fall. If you use enough fertilizer, they just end up burning up before they get to where a deer wants to even eat them, or they end up really small and stunted. So we're gonna go with corn and rye, and there's a few reasons for doing this. Everybody says you got a lot of acres, plant beans. Beans are a huge draw, and beans are a huge draw, but I don't want 30 does living on my property all summer long. We want this to be a buck safe haven, and bucks are grumpy old men. They don't like other deer. They don't like associating with other deer except for one time a year. They hang out in their small little bachelor group, and they don't really need great food sources, and they'll kind of avoid them except for big egg fields when there's a lot of deer using them. So we're not going to plant anything fancy. We're going to plant rye because that'll germinate pretty much in drought conditions. You can still get rye to germinate. One good rain and it'll pop up. And corn starts off so good in the spring. I've planted corn in the pasture and it does really well. It's as long as it finishes, and it normally does. So every once in a while you end up with stunted cobs and stuff, but it normally does pretty well. So what we're going to do is we're going to split every one of these in two, corn and rye. And rye is very good for the soil. Cereal rye is very good for the soil. So that enables us to switch back and forth every year. And rye is also great in the spring. You will see the deer feeding on it in the spring, right as the spring thaw starts coming, and it gives the deer a little boost right away in the spring when they're really coming off of winter and it's struggling and the snow starts melting. They can go into that rye and get some needed nutrients in their most vulnerable time of the year, which is this March-April time frame, where when the winter storms come through, that can really kill your deer herd. So, I mean, we live in northern Minnesota. Winters are severe. That rye in the spring really can help them jump start their antler growth and jump start the health of the does that are about to have babies pretty quick. So that's what we're planting. That's why we're planting it. So, I mean, soil type, we don't want a bunch of does around. That's what's going to work best for us, I think. So we've established why we're planting this, what we're planting, and where we're planting it. We also want to keep the deer spread out in the whole property. That's why we planted everything the same. We also don't want one big draw at a certain time of the year. So we don't want to have something down here that draws the deer, this extremely strong draw, one part of the year, so the deer are all packed into this area, and then another part of the year they're all packed into this area, and another part of the year they're all packed in this area. So if we had, say, we had clover and corn in one of these, that clover is a huge draw spring and summer. Most of our deer would be located in this area in the summer, and they wouldn't utilize the rest of the property, which lowers our carrying capacity. So to increase carrying capacity, we added all these browse and all this bedding area. We want the deer to use the whole thing. So that's why we're keeping everything the same. Part of the reason why we're keeping everything the same. Now, after we do all these, we get the food plots where we want them. Now we're going to think of stand locations. And this is part of the reason why we chose where we chose for food plots, right? These food plots are going to be huntable on certain winds. So you always got to be cognizant of the wind. Most people don't pay attention to it, especially around here. There's people that go out to the same stand for 30 years, and it doesn't matter if the wind's wrong or not, especially during firearm season. We always want to be cognizant of the wind and hunt the property accordingly. So, first spot we're going to put a stand. So we're going to put a stand down here in this corner. This gives you a big line of sight with the rifle, with the firearm. And there's a spot to park down here that's out of the way. You can sneak into it on any east wind or any southeasterly wind. And the way the property sets up, almost a straight south wind, you're still going to be good. It's not blowing into the bedding area. We want to leave this bedding area all for the deer. We never want to touch it or be in it. I mean, in the spring, obviously, and in the summer, we're not going to be pushing deer out of it. But during hunting season, we don't even want them to know they're being hunted. So we only go into this stand on the correct wind to hunt that stand. We're also going to put a stand up here, which basically is another straight south wind stand. We can hunt it on any south wind, should be fine. And this is going to be a firearm. You're basically your line of sight, say your 300-yard marks out here. You can shoot a long ways. Anything coming up out of the bedding area, you're fine. Any of the deer coming out of there, we should be fine. So southeast wind. We want this way, this way, this way. We should be good. This one is more northeast, east, south. Okay? So now we're going to add a stand over here at this end of the property. Again, we left this empty. There shouldn't be much for deer activity here. The deer mostly come off the neighbors this way or come off the house grove this way. Primarily southwest, straight south wind, and southwest wind is kind of where we want to be on that one. We're also going to put a stand down here on this food plot. That leaves us for a south wind again, and anything out of the west we can get into this stand. So basically anything out of the west, the hard northwest winds, northwest is our primarily dominant wind here, we can get into this stand on a northwest wind. Okay, now we got to talk about access to the stands. We put the stands where they needed to be. We got a stand for every wind at this point in time. We got to talk about getting to the stands undetected without the deer knowing that we're there. So we're going to add screening. We're going to use switchgrass. We're going to add switchgrass for screening our walkways to our deer stands, and also covering any noise we might make a little bit, and access. Which all these stands are primarily going to be evening stands. Just the way the property's set up right now, it's kind of the way it has to work. And as these develop, we'll get into spots where we can add morning stands, and we're going to go over that a little bit. But so we're going to put in some switchgrass. We'll use pink for the switchgrass. We're going to use pink. We've got switchgrass there to get to that stand. We're also going to screen, so that just gets us to our stands. Alright, this stand, you can get into it. We're going to use the rise of the land. There's a ridge right there, and we're going to put the stand kind of off the edge of the ridge, on the back side of the ridge, so once you get up into the stand, you'll be able to see over the top of the ridge, but the deer shouldn't be able to see you get into the stand. We'll add some switchgrass here to shield it from this grove of timber that's there right now, but eventually the deer will bed out here instead of bedding in there, so you won't need it so much. We're going to add some switchgrass here to get out to this stand, and we're going to add switchgrass all along here to get out to this stand. So that covers access to every stand and how we're going to get to every stand, and keeps us, and we're very cognizant of where the wind is. We know how we're going to get there and where we need to be. So this concludes part 3 of the video, food plots and deer stands and access to the deer stands, and why we put the stands where we did. Cognizant of the wind, always careful on our access. We have easy access to all the stands. I mean, this is our longest walk. That's about a half mile. All these other stands are quick, easy access. You can slip in, slip out undetected. Deer don't even know they're being hunted. We can get down, we can get out, wait till dark, get down, get out, not spook a deer. We want to hunt every day. If we're spooking a deer on our property, we're doing something wrong. We never want to spook a deer when we're hunting. That's how you keep your property a daytime property instead of a nocturnal property. If you start spooking deer, you're making the deer more nocturnal. So we're going to go every day without trying to spook a deer. That's the goal. So that covers stand and access. On the next one, we're going to cover screening our plots, because we're going to screen all these plots. We're going to cover trail camera points, where we're putting trail cameras, and we're going to add water to the property, because this property lacks water. We're also going to add some kill plots and some future kill plots and some future stand locations for when it becomes more archery opportunity opens up in this. We're going to add some kill plots and some other stand locations. So, and how we're going to access those. So we'll cover all of that in part 4, but this is part 3, food plots, where we're putting them, why we're putting them, and our food plot plan. So, like, subscribe, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We'll see you on the next one, hopefully, part 4.